Hello, lovely people. It's Victoria. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. So, this is like the third time that I'm trying to make this video. I made this video at first and then was like, let me make a script for it. And then I wrote a script and then I sat on it and then I started making it the other day. And then I was like, let me start over again. So this is the third time I am starting this video and we're just going to do it. All right, we're going to do it. This is it. So I was debating for a second if I wanted to end up uploading this, but, because I was questioning how much I want to continue talking about people on my channel, but this was something that I did really care about when it happened, and it happened almost 3 months ago, and y'all know that I love to cover things like 2 or 3 months after they happen. I keep looking at myself on my screen, but I have sat with this for a minute and listened to a lot of commentary about this when it happened, and I had quite a few thoughts on it that I just wanted to share. Not a lot that other people haven't said, but I paid a lot of attention to this when this happened, and I don't know, I just wanted to cover it. So for my own personal closure's sake, we're going to talk about the Jake Doolittle situation. 'Twas the nonprofit charity fiasco where he tried to manipulate his audience and also fellow creators into promoting or donating to his nonprofit, and is accused of using his health to try to manipulate people. And it was just like a lot of problematic behavior and things that I had thoughts about. Before I get into that, I had thoughts about things that I have like talked about in previous videos. Because like one in my Tana Mojo Alyssa Violet video, I talk about privilege a lot, and I'm obviously not like a famous influencer or anything, but I just wanted to acknowledge my own privilege and that I am like helped out a lot by my family, and I am very like privileged in that sense, and I get that not everyone has that, and I'm very, very grateful for that. And they like allow me to live with them, and I'm very like underemployed at the moment and starting a new job though, with an opportunity that was given to me by my family. So that's also an amazing thing that I really want to make the most of the best that I can. So I felt like that was something that I wanted to be honest about, and I don't have great financial health. That's something that I am trying to work on for the future as I am in my mid-20s. Oh, and then also this was like a silly thing, but in my idea of you video, I realized that my opinions in that when I was talking about that movie were just like weirdly strong. And he's saying that like 24 and 40 is a fine age gap because you have a fully developed frontal lobe when it's actually not really developed till like 25. But it's just like, I don't know. It just seemed, I look back on that and I was like, it just seems like I was taking that very seriously. So I don't know. But my general points on that movie still stand. Anyway, so let's get into the Jake Doolittle situation. If you have not subscribed already, I would really appreciate if you subscribed and consider liking this video if you are enjoying it so far. And I'm going to try to not talk while I'm looking at my script on my monitor over here because my mic is over here. So, how I initially came to hear of Jake Doolittle. This was a few months ago, maybe around Halloween, and the first video I saw of his was the one he made where he went to the canceled tour with his now fiance, Hannah, who seems really sweet. And it was like an informative, they talked about the experience and whatever, but something that stuck out to me in retrospect when this whole thing happened was that he mentioned seeing someone at the show who he knew in his personal life who accused him of faking his disabilities for attention or sympathy, and he was super upset at them and said, if this person tried, I was getting my phone ready because if this person tried to approach me, I was going to record it and I wasn't going to let them, and did it, and clearly getting worked up. And Hannah was like, you need to chill out. You're getting too freaked out. So he clearly also like, I even wrote notes, but like, I'm going to try to stay in order the best that I can. And then later on when I learned about the lore with H3, which I don't even know if I'm still fully privy to it, but the whole lore with that where he accused Ethan of exaggerating his suspected lupus or his suspected health issues for sympathy and money and attention. And then apologize, but I never saw that apology video. I just saw H3's podcast and them talking about it, and then was trying to be like buddy with the crew and DM'd Zach, I believe, and basically accused Ethan of feeding off of sympathy. And then with the thing he said in the video about the canceled tour, plus his actions in this situation that we're going to talk about, he just, he's suggested that he has a thing and like a complex around being seen as trying to get sympathy or trying to manipulate people. But then with his other actions, it's kind of funny that he would have that complex, because it kind of seems like that's what he's trying to do, in my opinion, with a lot of these things, specifically regarding his health. And then the other video that I saw of his was when he talked about Brooke Schofield, when she had a kerfluffle with the disabled community, because she basically tried to talk about people using fake disabled parking passes. And then people accused her of being ignorant to invisible illnesses. And then she tried to just be like, I understand, but I was just speaking from my experience, because I've seen like friends of mine and stuff just talk about how they know a guy and they just have to like pay some money and get one. And so I was speaking out about that. And then people were like, okay, then why didn't you say anything to your friend that apparently does that, instead of trying to like put it on these strangers that you don't know? So that was a whole thing, and he was talking about that from the perspective of someone who deals with chronic pain and chronic illness. So that's basically the background of how I came to be aware of his content, and I didn't have too much of an opinion on him. I generally kind of agreed with what he said, and yeah, I didn't end up watching really any more of his videos. Those are the only 2 of his videos that I've seen. And then we get to this thing. So it starts with the video he uploaded called I'm Frustrated with Commentary YouTubers. And the original thumbnail had I'm Alex and Cody Co in the thumbnail with the caption, I'm disappointed. So very vague, but clearly suggesting that it's going to be about something, but it was a total bait and switch, because the video is not about I'm Alex or Cody Co. We are going to basically do a play-by-play. I think I covered all the main points of everything that he says, because he's going to talk a lot about being taken out of context, being misinterpreted. So I wanted to capture as much of what he said as possible, but I'm going to try to keep it from being too redundant. So we're going to try to go over what matters at least. So he starts the video by saying this is something he's wanted to make for a long time, and he's nervous to make it because he's aware that it might burn some bridges, but he says, quote, fuck it. Or actually, no, I think he says, who gives a fuck? Something along those lines. So he's clearly like, this might do some damage, but like, whatever. Which is funny, because then later on, he says that he doesn't expect the video to do anything. So it's like, do you think it's not going to do anything, or do you think it's going to possibly burn bridges? I don't know. But he reminds the audience that he has a nonprofit called Never Stop, and that he has, quote, sunk thousands and thousands of dollars into it personally in order to fund the donations that they've made. They give $500 to one person every month. This nonprofit has grown a lot, but it is still very small. And Jake says that he feels overwhelmed by the number of applications that they've received, because that has only grown while the amount that they're able to give to people has not. And he says that no YouTubers have talked to him about his nonprofit or donated to it. He says that one artist has agreed to work with him on his nonprofit, but he is not going to name names of anyone, whether they are helping him or not. But he says that he will be naming names within a month if he does not get a response from people and if they continue to ghost him. He then says that it's funny that a lot of the people he's talking about make content about holding people accountable, but they don't want to talk to him about his nonprofit or donate to it, which I do not follow the logic there. It's also, I'm going to touch on this a few times because the thumbnail of this video was really upsetting. And spoiler alert, we're going to go through a few chapters of this, but the thumbnail is really overlooked by Jake himself, and we don't really ever get his side of why he chose it. So I can only assume that he was just trying to capitalize on the controversy around the horrible actions towards women that these two YouTubers allegedly committed, even though I'm Alex was literally caught on camera making physical violence threats against his ex-girlfriend, and Cody Ko was exposed and basically admitted, allegedly, to having sex with a 17-year-old when he was 25. So you're aware of that, and in my opinion, you were clearly trying to capitalize on the controversy and attention that those people were getting, but you were making it about you. And you're going to say that you're not making it about you because you're going to be like, oh no, it's my nonprofit. It's my nonprofit. But this nonprofit, in my opinion, seems to serve your ego. So it is about you. It's about how you can feel you're making a difference and your own perceived self-importance and your own legitimacy and something. It's something, it seems to represent a lot more to you than something like, you know, something that you just created that's kind of separate from yourself. It seems to represent a part of you, and it seems like your ego is invested in the success of this nonprofit. But you're going to deflect and be like, I'm not trying to get money from me. It's for other people that we're trying to help, you know? And that's a bit of a red herring in a way. I think I'm using that phrase correctly. No, not a red herring. It's just deflection. It's just deflection. But it's funny that he brings up, holding people accountable, but you don't want to actually hold people accountable. You are using the images of people that have been exposed for horrible actions, but you're not actually talking about those. And you're using it to clickbait and making it seem like you're going to talk about that, but you're trying to just harvest that attention for your own nonprofit and your own personal gain. So that's scummy to me and extremely ironic. He brings up these bizarre points that senators and politicians, as well as very successful nonprofits that are raking in a lot of donations, are more interested in talking to him than other content creators. And to me, that's such a bizarre thing to bring. That's such a weird thing to bring up. Like, why aren't you just grateful that you're getting these networking connections and these opportunities and this knowledge from other people that are in the game that can help you expand your own nonprofit? Like, why are you still salty about what you're not getting and the attention you're not getting and this perceived goalpost that you're not reaching? Just be happy about that. Like, why are you using that to try to, like, I don't know. It's so weird. He very much assumes people's financial obligations and how much money they would be able to spend. Because to be fair, like, in a lot of these cases that he's talking about, these people are saying how much they're making and they're sharing that on their close friend story or whatever. And that's one thing. I personally wouldn't do that. But to assume that they have, like, no other obligations, they have no other charities they're donating to, that they just have a bunch of free money that they're not using. And in one situation that he talks about, this person says that they want to do well with their money or they want to do something good with their money. And then he's automatically like, oh, well, let me talk to you about my nonprofit. And I get how that would be like, oh, okay. But I also get how he could see, like, that it could seem like that was a segue for him, but it's a pitch for the other person, I would imagine. He acts like he's doing you a favor by telling you to spend money on his nonprofit so that it can lower your tax bill, and that there must not be knowledge of how it can offset your tax bill. And that must be why people aren't donating to his nonprofit more, because obviously it offers so many benefits, which I'm not an expert in that, but apparently that is a radical oversimplification according to a lot of people, that, like, you have to donate a ton of money to a nonprofit for it to really significantly offset your tax bill. And in that case, like, you're still spending the money, so you would still have the money to spend. So that's a moot point. So like I said earlier, he mentions that he doesn't think this video is going to do anything, but that he wants to establish an understanding between himself and his audience. So he basically only thinks that his core audience is going to see this, but at the same time, he thinks that it's going to burn bridges, or that he's nervous it's going to burn bridges, because he said that at the beginning. So again, that's a little contradiction, little question mark there. So he continues to express this frustration about his relationships with other creators. He's saying that a lot of other YouTubers have unfollowed him recently. He doesn't use the word YouTubers. He says a bunch of people that have the power to make change have unfollowed him recently, but I can only assume he means like other content creators. Yeah, he says they have similar audiences, they make similar content to him, and that they have the ability to change their audience's lives, which seems like an appeal to emotion. He talks about a few people in some very, very vague terms, and the audience then thought that it could be a lot of different people because it could be like anyone he's ever worked with. Adam McIntyre was talking about the situation and was saying that people were saying it was him or asking if it was him. So there was the person that said they wanted to do, they were posting how much they were making. Jake congratulated them, and then they mentioned that they wanted to do well with their money, and then Jake pitched their nonprofit, and then this person ghosted him, left him on red, which is funny because he was saying that like people were unfollowing him, but it looks like this person just left him on red. And then he's super mad about this and said, you can't post how much you're making and say you want to do well or do good things with your money, and then when someone gives you an opportunity, you just leave them on red without providing any proof of anything, as if he's like owed evidence. He's talked about all this, but like I want to do a full video on this situation. I'm taking you through like everything, because like there's so many things that were just like upsetting about every single chapter of this saga. So Jake mentions another person who is someone he's made content with and that he's met in person. He says he asked this person how he could get influencers to work with him on the nonprofit. This doesn't seem related to this person, but he brings up different charity streams that he's seen that have earned like $4 million. And he was just saying, I can do so much with 1/100th of that money. So he definitely seems to compare himself to other organizations, which isn't inherently weird, but he says we have the ability to give directly to people. And this is crazy. He goes, there's no nonprofit that's doing that. We're so small scale that we're able to influence people in a way that no other nonprofit can. That is a quote. I think he's talking about another person when he starts this anecdote, but he says there's another person that he got on a phone call with who's always been very honest with him and basically expressed hesitancy to work with him on the nonprofit because of his previous content about Ethan Klein. And then Jake's all like defensive about it and was like, I made an apology video, like, what the hell? But like, that's just going to keep people from working with me because I guess I'm not allowed to change or whatever dumb shit he said. So yeah, regarding the person telling Jake that the Ethan Klein video is a reason why this person doesn't want to work with him, Jake said that he apologized for the video and that he makes a ton of videos and it's impossible to, let me see. It's inevitable to make videos that are perceived badly or allegations that turn out to be false, and we have to backtrack. So after he mentions this person telling him this, Jake asks, like, what do I have to do? Do I have to put bank statements online? Which is interesting considering the thing he said earlier about the person saying they want to do good things with their money and leaving him on red and saying you can't just say this without providing proof of anything. Which, what proof would they even be needing to provide? Like, what? And then he explains, if you had just shown me that you were donating to another nonprofit, if that was the case, that would have been fine, but you didn't even respond to me at all. It's like, why do they owe you anything? They don't owe you anything. They don't owe you proof or an explanation or anything. He mentions that his nonprofit has $6,000 in their bank account for the next year, which is cool. Like, obviously I understand wanting more, but you have a year's worth of an operational budget secured, so maybe just like go from there. I don't know. He seems just very tunnel visioned. What's funny is that he mentions having a company event for his nonprofit, that I guess the profits from that allowed him to make a company purchase for the first time, and he got a credit card processor. But the key words in him telling us about this event was, he goes, an event that I did not promote at all. So it's like, maybe promote these events and these fundraisers and things like that and try to be more proactive in putting eyes on your nonprofit rather than expecting everyone else to do the legwork for you. He references the potential tax benefits again, saying if you're self-employed, you can offset it, but apparently it is a lot more complex than that, like I mentioned. He apologized for aforementioned Ethan Klein video and said that he apologized or whatever the fuck, end quote. He mentions another person and then again mentions that he will probably mention names later on. So this person, I don't know how many people he mentions in this video, like 5, but apparently this person can change hundreds of thousands of lives. And he or they had asked Jake for advice, strategic content advice. I don't know who's able to make that kind of change and is asking Jake Doolittle for advice. No offense, but apparently Jake asked in turn for this person's advice in growing the nonprofit. He doesn't really mention whether this person left him on red or unfollowed him or what, but he mentions that they completely used him. He doesn't know why they reached out. He mentions that a lot of people he's made videos with have stopped talking to him, and that one person has taken down every video that the two of them made together, which I thought was crazy. I don't know who that is. Then another person is mentioned. This person apparently started YouTube around the same time that Jake did. And then at one point, this person was saying that Jake was using him, and Jake was refuting that, being like, we started at the same time, so how could I be using you? Again, like, that thing does not determine the other thing. Like, you're just, like, saying things and expecting people to believe the connection that you're saying they have. Like, that isn't, like, one does not determine the other to be true. He also mentioned that if this person talked about him online, that he would show the receipts, but that he doesn't want to start anything, which I thought was so funny because by making this video, he is starting so many somethings. And also mentions that apparently people he had invited to his wedding are no longer talking to him. And that's just like, he's just exposing the dissolution of apparently so many relationships in his life. He pretty much concludes the video by saying that commentary is super clicky and that bigger channels will ask him to take things down and that he will take them down because he is a little bitch. And that's basically the video. I think I basically included my thoughts on that video as we were summarizing it, but that, like, there was a lot wrong with it. I get that it came from an obvious place of frustration. Apparently this went through an editor. He mentions that coming up, but he mentions that he wanted to make it for a long time. That's just so much was said. So the next chapter is that Jake does a live stream. I don't know how long after this video he made this live stream, but he's in the hospital talking to nurses, waiting for people to come back in the room, and just so much is going on while he's just on this live stream talking about this video. So original videos of this live stream are few and far between, but Adam McIntyre was able to recover one. And so I basically watched this live stream through his commentary, which it was a very entertaining video. I'm going to try to remember to link all of the videos that really helped me in informing me about the situation down below, and Adam is a big one. I'm a big fan of his. So again, we're going to give basically a play-by-play summary. This is going to be like way too detailed of a summary of the situation. The version that Adam used had the most hilariously dramatic piano instrumental in the background. It was so funny. So he says that his video was really bitter and annoyed. He mentions apologizing to some people and saying that it was stupid anyway. And then I guess at one point near the beginning of the live stream, someone makes him aware that H3 is going to do a live stream about him and that he's in the title. And then I guess at that point he sends a comment to H3, or later on, I don't know. But at one point he sends a comment to H3 saying, "Can this wait? I'm in the hospital," which full circle around to his whole thing about feeding for sympathy. But then this is like one of many things that he does referencing his health or being in the hospital, trying to delay a conversation, keep people from talking about it, to deflect in order to not have to talk about certain things. Like he seems to use it a lot, in my opinion. So someone, I think, asked if the video was about Cody Ko. He confirms that it was not about Cody Ko and that he was, quote, just mad. Also, maybe this is nitpicking, but the number of times that this man says, "I don't know," and "you know," stresses me out. It stresses me out. I was wondering like what the correct way to say, what is it, stresses or stress? It stresses me out the number of times this man says, "you know," and "I don't know." Maybe it's hypocritical because I am no stranger to a filler word. Okay. But if you're going to go on live stream and you're making this decision, maybe have some purpose to what you're saying. I don't know. He's sitting and having awkward silences anyway. Maybe like take a second and think about what you're going to say. So a big theme in this live stream is that he doesn't really mention whether he himself... Okay. He'll say that he deleted the video because he thought it was a bad video or because it was a bad video. So this is after he deleted the video. I don't know how long it was up, but it got like 11,000 views. He mentions deleting it because it was a bad video. But then also like mentions it was, other people said it was a bad video, but like he doesn't mention whether he thought it was or if it was because of public opinion, but it seems like it is because of public opinion. But then he says that the videos that are important to him are generally seen as a bad take and people don't like them. So it seems like a bit of a contradiction. So again, it's like, is it still important to you, but people just saw it as a bad take, and so then you took it down because of what people thought, or you actually realized that it was a bad take? He doesn't acknowledge that. Someone suggests that he talked to these people, but he says that that wouldn't do anything and that he has to schedule more knee surgeries. We then have the great moment where someone accuses him of blackmailing his friends, but then he says, well, I didn't think so. Someone asks him why he's live, and he basically says he's prepped to lose everything again, and he wishes he could prep himself before having to deal with another online thing. So it's like, then why don't you take a second and prep yourself? That like, why are you voluntarily getting on this impromptu? Like he doesn't even realize the extent to which his actions accomplish the opposite of what he wants them to. So in my opinion, it's really obvious that he wanted to get views with that first video, but he again says that he didn't think that that video would do anything, which again I think is confusing considering he said in the beginning that was nervous about burning bridges with people. So clearly you thought people were going to see it. He says that he cannot financially afford to take a break because, quote, shit like this happens all the fucking time. I think just the online controversy thing, which is kind of interesting because like he hasn't had a controversy in about a year as far as I am aware of. So then someone comments in the chat that their mom was helped by his nonprofit. And then he has this near Freudian slip where he says it doesn't, and like he's going to say it doesn't matter, but then he corrects himself and he just says that no one believes it. Like he's so obsessed with how he's perceived. His main currency from which he views his success is other people's approval and granting of legitimacy. He's very just invested in what people think of him and his nonprofit, and he seems to view it as a reflection of himself. Like his ego really does seem to be entangled with it. In addition to him constantly saying, I don't know, and you know, his language is very diminishing of his intention. He talks about wanting to make this video for a long time and also hints that it was important to him, but then at the same time, he just very much oversimplifies his intentions behind it when trying to like discredit himself, and just says that it was dumb and stupid. This was super dumb. This was super stupid. This was fucking stupid. And then also says that the video was a random thing. But after you just said that it was something you had been thinking about making for a long time. Just the inherent contradictions of this man. I can't I think when he is asked about blackmailing people, he said, I said one thing about I don't know what I'm gonna do if Never Stop doesn't get more help, when that's not what he said. He never said it like that. He was like, if I don't get a response from people and if they continue to ghost me, I am going to name the people that have not responded to me and have not donated. And he then says that he has to record some bullshit video he doesn't care about, when those are not the only two options for content, by the way. It's not like record some video you don't care about or go completely nuclear and express your thoughts in the least tactful way possible. I appreciate that in Adam's video, he basically ratioed Jake on this and said that he understands that the workload can be a lot of being a content creator, but that they basically need to check their privilege and that they're able to do this for a living. So he mentions that in that video, he basically talked the way that he would talk behind closed doors as far as being frustrated at not doing well. And mentions that they actually did get quite a bit of support for the nonprofit from that last video, which good for you. I'm glad that didn't backfire on you too hard, apparently. He gets a comment saying he was trying to emotionally manipulate people into donating, but he just says that that wasn't what he was trying to do, and that those creators aren't subscribed to the channel. But you literally said that you were aware and nervous that this would burn bridges. So you were clearly aware of the possibility of the people you were talking about seeing the video. But you're just like, oh, they weren't subscribers, so I wasn't trying to manipulate them because I didn't think they would see it. But like you guys had worked together. You make similar content. Like really expect people to believe that you didn't think they were going to see it at all. Like, oh my God, the doublethink is insane. Even just like reading this back after writing it, it was like the mental gymnastics are so exhausting. So again, trying to act like he didn't think it would do anything, saying that he just needs views, he needed content, and that he wanted to rant. Or like, not that he needed views, he's not getting views. And so I guess like, I don't know if he was trying to say that he just didn't expect anyone to see it again, going with that. Like, I think that is what he's trying to do. But at the same time, like, you're low-key admitting to trying to get views because you're not. It's so naive to just be like, oh, I wasn't trying to get views at all. But like, you're clearly expressing frustration and not getting views. I don't know. So he says that he doesn't think he's allowed to rant on his channel, and that he sent the video to an editor and it was originally 40 minutes long. So I think this is the first time that it is confirmed to the audience that this video did go through at least one other person. So he says he can't vent or handle the backlash, when I really don't think that was the issue. I think it was more so how he said what he said. Someone mentions Adam McIntyre by name in the comments, and then he's just like, you know what? I'm in the hospital. I'm just trying to do a fun little stream. It's like, but you brought up this controversy. You brought up this, like, you're clearly just trying to get people to side with you. You're just trying to pander to people. But then if people actually bring something up and is like, oh, do you want to actually like address the things that you talked about? He's like, let's not actually go into it though. But let's view me as the better person for trying to pretend to address this, when he's clearly very upset about it still. So he basically says that he's not money hungry because he only wants money for the charity. Again, this is like the major moment that he acknowledges it, and the reason why I say that it seems like the success of his charity is intertwined with his ego and his perceived success. He also says he never took money from his nonprofit. There was also the thing that he acknowledged where he had a clothing line when he was younger, and he put 10% back into the nonprofit. And then he says that it was probably less than 10%. He probably kept more than 90, which, like, I don't know why you would admit that on camera. Like, that's just not helping your case, that you literally took more than you said you were going to take. Like, that's just false advertising. He then just dismisses it, saying, I guess I fucked up again. He doesn't actually like talk. He kind of sort of talks about like what the 90% was spent on, but then he just dismisses it, being like, I was 16 at the time and I was just like doing shit. Which, like, my main thing is that you didn't stick to what you said you were going to do as far as splitting up the profits. So that was a thing. He doesn't really talk about the details of when he took more than he said he was going to and why. Says he never pocketed any money from the clothing line and that it stayed in a Shopify account and that there were other expenses, but he's pretty elusive about what he did with it. I don't know if it's still in that Shopify account and he never touched the money or what. He says he can't take his time with anything because he needs money. Then I think at that point a nurse comes in the room and then he changes the camera angle and he's like pointing it at his leg and it's really awkward. Then he says that he doesn't have money, but he doesn't want it. He's like, I don't want money. Even after he just said that he needs it. He also says that he'd like time to heal and to not have to worry about this. Again, as he like continues to put himself in the conversation and to talk about things that he apparently isn't ready to talk about. So that was the live stream. All right. So again, I think I gave basically all my thoughts on that. My glasses are so dirty right now. So the last major pillar of this saga and the way that this ends is, oh my God, get out of my face hair. Ah! Okay, the last final pillar of this saga is the response video that he made. It is called Addressing Everything. So he starts the video by saying that his previous video sucked and that live streaming in the hospital to try to address everything was a really dumb decision. I very much agree. Like, I've made dumb videos. I've put so much questionable content online. Like, if you know, you know. So, like, I don't want to seem like I'm coming from some high horse of, like, shouldn't have done that. I've started the dumbest arguments with people on Instagram. I have been such a mean girl, especially in high school. Like, I would just be so mean to people that had done nothing to me. I would start a conversation with someone I had a problem with, and then I would use that to like bait them into talking to me so that I could be like, pretend to be the victim. Like, I was so manipulative when I was younger. Like, I get starting shit with people and having that version of you in people's memory. Like, I get it. I really do. But it's the contradictory way that he talks about it. It's like he wants you to think that he regrets it, but he is like hinting that he only took it down because of the public opinion. And it really seems like that's the main thing that he cares about. So he quite literally, in the first 90 seconds of this video, I'm pretty sure, yeah, in the first minute and a half, he references being in the hospital 4 times. And this is a pattern that continues throughout the entire video. He keeps bringing up irrelevant information, and I know he keeps saying he wants to provide context for the mindset that he was in when he was doing this. And it's clear you weren't in the best state of mind, but like, you are leaning too hard on the context. You are over leaning on the context. You also said it was a video that you'd wanted to make for a really long time. So yes, I believe that your mindset and your frustration, that I totally saw and believe. Like, I definitely believe you were frustrated with a lot of different things. I definitely believe that played a part, but you also seem to have been thinking about this for a long time. And you also seem to somewhat at least stand by it even after the fact, as hinted in your live stream. So also, for someone leaning on context so hard, he's not going to at all provide an explanation for this thumbnail. The only time that he acknowledges that this video even has a thumbnail is when he mentions again that he sent it to an editor. He uploaded it with the thumbnail and, quote, said, fuck it. So he mentions that his health has been good for the first time in years, but he's been in pain and dealing with insurance stuff. And all of this is completely unrelated. He says again, the original cut of the video is 45 minutes long. It went through an editor. All the explanation for the context related to his health, insurance, other irrelevant things, how that affected his mindset. He does not address why he chose that thumbnail. Not once. He doesn't acknowledge it at all. He doesn't acknowledge who was in it. He doesn't acknowledge his reasoning for that at all. It's like he wants you to forget that was the thumbnail that was chosen. So you cannot sit there and tell me you were not trying to get views on this video and you didn't think you were going to get views on this video, where you contradict yourself multiple times and you say that you are nervous that people are going to burn their bridges with you, but like, who gives a fuck, quote unquote. But when you put those people in the thumbnail, you cannot tell me that you weren't trying to get views on that. Because you don't address it, the only explanation that I can think of is that you were trying to capitalize on the rightfully earned outrage towards those people's actions, and you're trying to use that for your own benefit. So, but we're not going to talk about that. So that's what I believe. He just keeps leaning on how he's not getting approved for disability insurance and that he didn't have any content to make. He just needed something to make a video about. He also, he contradicts himself because he'll say, videos that mean a lot to me get bad reception and get called bad takes. But then at the same time, we'll be like, this was a random video and I just needed something to make and I wasn't really thinking about it. It's like, you were thinking about it for a long time and wanting to make it, or it was just a random thing and you barely realized you were saying it until you hit the publish button. I don't know. So he acknowledges that he came off as annoying and entitled and continues to lean on the context by saying he's going through health difficulties for the first time in a while. He also has a habit of saying that things came across a certain way, or that it sounded like he was saying things out of context when those things are literally what he said. So he mentions again that it was a throwaway video and he thought it'd just be something to post. Adam McIntyre also makes an interesting point and says that he doesn't think that Jake is making as little as he acts like he is, and basically says that he should check his privilege because Adam and Jake have kind of similar size audience. They make a similar amount of content on similar topics. Which we obviously don't know how much they're making, but I just thought that was I appreciated him doing that. He again mentions that he didn't think people would see it because the Never Stop website wasn't running, as if those two things are related. Again, he just like says things and he'll say that that's a reason for something else, and he'll just like expect people to believe it when those things are not connected. It's not connected. That has nothing to do. What do you mean you didn't think people were going to see a video on your YouTube channel because an entirely other website was not running? Those two things have nothing to do with each other. He says he came across as a crazed, upset person, not happy with anything, which again, he attributed to dealing with his health at a level that he has not had to deal with in a while. He said that the video needed context that he didn't give because he thought it would be for his core audience. Again, saying he didn't think anyone really beyond his core audience would see it, which is funny because his core audience were still like very upset by this video. He then says that out of context, it sounded like he was saying that no other nonprofit is doing what they're doing, when he literally said no other nonprofit is helping people at the scale that they were helping people. He also said that no other YouTuber is uploading as much as he is, basically. Like, he said, like, no other YouTuber is uploading on the level that I am. When I guess he was just comparing himself to his peers and using that as a way to measure their perceived success. Like, that part, he was kind of losing me there. After giving this context about his health issues and how it caused him to make the video, he doubles down on the fact that an influencer interaction is what sent him into a tizzy. He then overall just spends way too much time entertaining really baseless claims that other people have made as far as his health issues go. I haven't really seen anyone make these points, but apparently a lot of people were just disputing whether or not he even has chronic Lyme disease, whether he's had as many knee surgeries as he said he had. Apparently H3 was saying that. That is not my argument, and that has nothing to do with my argument. I believe his health issues. I have absolutely no reason not to. His health issues are none of my business. He personally, in my opinion, he makes it way more my business than I think it is. He's like showing health records, showing timestamp photos of him being in the hospital for certain surgeries. It's like way too much time, spends way too much time defending himself against really stupid arguments that I personally have not even seen anyone make. Let me know if you have. He mentions Nicholas DiOrio and how he's apparently been like posting about him a lot or tweeting at him a lot. I'm honestly not sure. I'm not a fan of Nick, and I guess he like dug up this old news clip of Jake in order to talk about his health history. I'm not sure, but like this clip was used by a lot of people to accuse his mom of having Munchausen by proxy, because a lot of people didn't believe his illness, and that is really fucked up. But I don't really know like the super details of the dynamic between Nick and Jake, to be honest. But that was basically the response video. He just spent like way too much time talking about his health and absolutely none talking about the reason why he chose that godforsaken thumbnail. So I wanted to add a little bit of my own personal commentary because this situation randomly actually reminded me of a controversy that a creator I love experienced quite a few years ago, Kendall Ray. Kendall Ray went through this controversy about 7 or 8 years ago where she basically was like begging her audience for money and to join her Patreon, saying that she would have to close her channel if she didn't make more money from her content because she couldn't afford to get a 9-to-5. And she just couldn't afford like working part-time with making videos, and it was like one or the other. And so if she didn't get more money from her audience, she wouldn't be able to make videos anymore. And I remember this video, she was like, if I've ever helped you feel better about your body, like, please consider giving me money. And like so many people had an issue with that, especially because she then went to Australia around the same time. And then she was like defending that. And that also reminded me of Jake, because around the time he's saying he doesn't want money, but needs money and doesn't have it, he went to Europe with his fiance. So that was an interesting turn of events. But like, I personally am well acquainted with spending money on things that I can't actually really afford to do. So I'm not really one to talk about that. But that controversy reminded me of Kendall Ray. But then also when it comes to the nonprofit of it all, Kendall Ray, I think, did it right, because she actually made her name in the nonprofit space by working with other organizations first. She did a lot of charity campaigns. She would do certain videos and then would have like theme merch for that video, and then 100% of it would go to a certain thing. For a long time it was Thorn. She's done Nick Mick, Her Justice. yeah, a lot of different things. She's worked with a lot of different organizations. And then she eventually started her own. And I think that this was a route that would probably have caused Jake a lot less stress rather than diving into completely having a nonprofit on his own from the get-go. And I think you can probably make a bigger wave with an organization that already has like gotten its sea legs a little bit, and then learn how to kind of adapt that to your own cause. But like, obviously you're going to learn as you go, and you can't do everything like completely the most like thought out way possible all the time. So I think that's about it. I think that's about everything that I had to say on the Jake Doolittle situation. So this ended up being a bit of a monster video because this was a bit of a monster situation. Let me know what you thought of this. I am going to try to make more videos. I've said this a lot before. Consider subscribing to this channel. I make commentary and also like personal story time videos just talking about my life in addition to music. I'm a musician and I'm working on some new music right now. I feel really good about that. So consider sticking around because we have a good time here. So thank you so much if you happen to stay until the end. This was a long video. I hope you have a lovely day, and I will see you next time. Bye.